It was just an accident, but one airplane crash sparked a war that nearly wiped a country off the map. One man, a forgotten legend, would return from the shadows, not for peace, but for vengeance. In the skies over South India, an airplane from the small nation of Avula was on its way to the United States, but fate had other plans. A critical malfunction forced the plane to crash land in the capital city of Kovu, straight into the presidential villa. The president of Kovu was instantly killed. The people mourned, but his wife, she demanded blood. With no mercy, she declared, "If Avula cannot bring back my husband, then they must pay 70% of their entire national income every year." For 10 years, Avula was shocked. They begged for forgiveness. They offered apologies, but Kovu refused. And worse, they threatened total war if Avula didn't pay. Afraid of a war they couldn't win, Avula submitted. For 3 long years, 70% of all their revenue went to Kovu. Hospitals shut down. Children died. Hunger spread like a curse. Not because Avula was poor, but because everything they had was taken. The president of Avula tried to negotiate, suggesting they pay 45% over a longer time. But Kovu's leaders spat at the offer. "You kill our president, and now you bargain? Prepare for fire." Avula finally said, "Do what you must. We have nothing left to give." Kovu took that as a challenge. A year and a half later, they struck. A surprise assault killed 1,000 people in one night. Avula was broken but not dead. The next attack was worse. Quarter the country was turned to ash by rockets. People fled. Mothers wept. Children vanished in fire and dust. In desperation, Avula retaliated. Their small military launched what little they had, killing 2,000 in Kovu. That was the final straw. Kovu's leaders unleashed hell. 24 hours. Thousands of rockets. Half of Avula was gone. Their screams echoed across the land. It seemed like the end. But in the silence, a shadow returned. From far away in the mountains of Hong Kong, he heard the cry of his people. A man who had left Avula at age 10, trained in the deepest traditions of Shaolin, forged in fire, tempered in war. Now, he was coming home, not as a man, but as a ghost of war. They called him the Invisible Kungfu Master. He had once killed 10,000 with a blade, 20,000 with a bow, and 30,000 without showing his face. A phantom on the battlefield. Now, he returns, not for politics, not for peace, but for revenge. When the Invisible Kungfu Master arrived at the scene of destruction in Avula, his heart broke. He fell to his knees amidst the rubble and cried bitterly. For 2 hours, he mourned the lives lost, the innocent people, the children, the broken families. Then, slowly, he raised his head. More rockets were falling from the skies. Without hesitation, he dressed in his ancient Kung Fu battle armor. Though his country lacked modern Western weapons, like missiles and laser-guided rockets, he had something else. His ancestral strength, sharpened through silence, discipline, and unseen fury. He entered his stealth jet, carrying only traditional weapons, his sacred sword, fire-tipped arrows, and ninja stars. In just 3 hours, he reached the heart of enemy territory Kovu. As ground soldiers continued firing rockets toward Avula, the Invisible Kung Fu Master launched his first strike. With deadly precision, he hurled his ninja stars. They hit with such speed and accuracy that no soldier saw them coming. Panic spread. Guns fired into the air, but he was nowhere to be seen. Then silence. Suddenly, fire arrows rained from the sky. Within moments, thousands of soldiers were lying still. The battlefield was covered not in smoke, but in a haunting quiet. Trees stood tall and touched. Bodies were lifeless under their shade. Now in control of Kovu's own missile launchers, the Kung Fu Master unleashed a storm of destruction upon their command centers. Explosions echoed. The Air Force scrambled to respond. Radar systems finally caught sight of something, a flicker, a blur. It was him. But before they could fire, he vanished again. Frustrated and desperate, Kovu's pilots released missiles blindly. They ended up destroying their own facilities. cities, and people. The invisible Kung Fu master had become a shadow of vengeance and mistake. At dawn, they rested, but rest was a trap. With a roar, he reappeared in their base. Sword in hand, he shouted, "If you thirsted for blood, then blood shall flow." He moved like a whirlwind, faster than sight, a ghost among men. In just 1 hour, 5,000 soldiers fell. He seized their fighter jets and launched another wave of attacks. Kovu was in chaos. Civilians screamed. Families ran, not knowing where to hide. By daybreak, half the country was gone. Strangely, as refugees from Avula fled the destruction, they met terrified citizens of Kovu running from the very same storm. They looked at one another, confused enemies, yet victims of the same tragedy. Nobody laughed. There was nothing funny about mutual destruction. By evening, the invisible Kung Fu master had brought Kovu to its knees. Their last hope, the Marine soldiers, launched missile-bearing ships. But like the others, their aim failed. Their weapons missed him and hit their own cities. Smoke rose. Fire spread. The sea turned red. Finally, the master stood at the edge of the docks, face to face with the Marine soldiers. He didn't attack. He just looked. He saw pain. He saw confusion. He saw men fighting a war they didn't understand. Then he turned to look at what they all had caused. A land once rich in life, now reduced to ash and screams. He whispered to the wind. This was a small world, one that could have been healed with wisdom. But a woman wanted blood, so blood she received. With one final swing, he ended the last battalion and vanished like smoke. And just like that, it was over. A new era began. New buildings rose. New lives started. New characters emerged. But no one forgot the lesson. Not the elders, not the children. War is not always fought with bullets. Sometimes it's started by pride, fear, or the failure to listen. Don't wait for bloodshed before seeking peace. Technology can never replace wisdom. Revenge may bring silence, but it never brings healing. One stitch ignored can burn a whole nation. Always resolve conflict with understanding before it becomes fire. Let this tragedy be a warning. Dialogue is cheaper than war. Thank you for watching. Subscribe for more epic Kung Fu short stories. See you in another tough story like this.